we need to manage, and we need to build better. We also need to institutionalize. In 2003, when Baroness Choka got us together, we went back to Abuja and Ngozi came in, we decided to hold a brainstorming session to find out where we went wrong as a country. How can a country of so many talented people, many Nigerians have gone all over the world and have succeeded on their own without having to use the fact that they are Christian or Muslim, Yoruba, Igbo, Hausa, whatever. They have succeeded in an international competitive environment. Why do we have a country that doesn't work? But more importantly, what has worked in other countries that we can learn from? We studied about a dozen countries that have worked, that have done very well, and that were at similar stages of development as Nigeria back in the 60s. Most of these countries are in Asia. And we came up with 6 what we call commonalities. I don't know if it is the right English word, but we created that word anyway, even if it didn't exist. We found that countries that have done well have done these 6 things consistently well for 20 to 30 years. The first is we need a stable and legitimate government. Okay, stable, legitimate. Not necessarily democratic, because many countries have developed without democracy. China is one example. Of course, democracy is better than any form of government, but here we're talking about stability and legitimacy. And I think many of us that used to take this for granted should look at what is happening in our country to see the danger of governments not being quite stable. The second is rule of law, and I don't think we need to say much about that because Baroness Choka has talked about that. Not as a slogan, but as a real practice, as a culture that everyone believes in. Third, we need to actively and clearly protect rights, human rights, property rights, enforcement of contracts. Fourth, we need to invest in human capital. We need to educate our people. We need to ensure that they are healthy. In the 70s and 80s, a lot of money was invested to control populations. But now the paradigm has changed. China and many countries have shown that actually the bigger you are in terms of population, the better, providing the population is productive. Productive means educated, healthy, and working. I think by their 2050, China will be the biggest economy in the world. It's already the biggest creditor to everyone. But it will be the biggest economy in the world by far by 2050 because they have a large percentage of that 1.something billion people that are productive. We also need investments in physical infrastructure, electricity, transportation and logistic networks, telecommunications. The enabling environment for people that are educated and healthy to realize their potentials. And finally, the sensible use of markets. There is no country in the world that has developed and sustained that development on a long-term basis without using markets. Communism, or socialism as an economic ideology is dead. China shows that beyond all doubt. So around these 6 commonalities, we drafted our economic reform program, and we worked hard at it between 2003 and 2007. And I think the results are clear. But in the course of getting this done, I think we made one big mistake. We focused on economics. We forgot politics. And we're paying a heavy price, all of us. So the most important thing I have learned personally, the most important lesson I have learned personally is that politics trumps economics every single day, 7 days a week. And those of us in the economic team that thought that if we solve the economic problems, the politics will resolve itself, you know. And we are not stupid people, we are quite clever people. Some of us went to MIT and Harvard and all that, but we just didn't get it. And this is really the core of my message. And this is why I commend Dr. Odidi and his colleagues for starting this process. Politics is important. It is the most important vocation. And we must all be part of it. We must bear in mind that there aren't Muslim Nigerians or Hausa or Igbo. There are good and bad Nigerians. It's as simple as that. We must also accept that democracy with all its flaws is the only way that people will have an opportunity and a say in how they govern themselves. And if we believe that, we must participate in democratic institutions. We must be members of political parties. We must fight for our rights, because if we don't do that, as Plato wrote over 3,000 years ago, we'll be ruled by bad people. And in Nigeria, that seems to be the case in most parts of Nigeria. The best Nigerians did not go into public service as you have in countries like the UK. The best went abroad, went to work for banks, oil companies, and telecoms companies. So we have become a nation in which people like James Ibori are running the place. That's the price you pay for coming to the comforts of England and saying that politics is for lesser mortals. We have developed a political culture with an entitlement elite. Our people, our politicians, our big men feel that they're entitled to a good life with no accountability, no responsibility, because there is no linkage between their getting there and elections. If they satisfy the Godfather, who cares about the people? The few that are doing a good job are doing so because they are driven to do so. And Baroness Choka has mentioned some of them, but I particularly want to recognize Governor Fashola of Lagos. He makes us proud. So these are choices we have to make. For instance, we have to make a choice between whether we'll have a real federalism in our country or the fake unitary system of government we're operating. In the 60s, when we had regions that were autonomous, they competed, and I think Nigeria was a much better place. I was very young then, but I remember things were better.
Easier.
Now we have a rather funny animal that is neither a federal republic nor a central government, and things ain't working. It's clear to me. We have to make these choices, what we want. To what extent should we allow people to be free, or do we want to sit in Abuja and control how people live? All these are issues that we have to debate in our country and resolve.